Hey everyone, this is Katie and this is My Life with Veds. Today I'm going to talk about my experience with the Corona coaster or the ups and downs that I have felt during this pandemic. I'd like to first acknowledge that while I've experienced some ups and downs during this time, I recognize that it could be much worse. I am personally lucky and appreciative that 1, I am able to work remotely. 2, I have not lost my job or income during the pandemic. And 3, I have not lost any friends or family to COVID-19. That said, I do think everyone's experience during this pandemic is valid. And even though it could be much worse, I think the ups and downs are totally normal. And I think it's okay to talk about those things. I think it's healthy to do so. My first experience and emotion with this pandemic was fear. As soon as there were cases in Seattle, I was sure that they were everywhere, and I was taking it very seriously, very, very seriously. And of course, with vascular ehlers-danlos syndrome and never knowing when I'm going to have an emergency, as cases started popping up everywhere and emergency rooms and hospitals started getting overwhelmed, I also had fear around what if I have an emergency right now? And that also played into this fear of not knowing what to expect with the pandemic, not knowing how the virus would affect me personally with VEDS, and I was really just very fearful. Also, as somebody that lives in what I like to think of as like a more medically rural area, I thought about, what if my hospital here isn't overwhelmed, but they can't transfer me to a hospital that knows how to handle VEDS in an emergency, and then I have to get my care here at a local hospital where I don't really have awesome access to a great hospital or care team. So that has also played into that fear. After fear, I really started feeling some resentment. It felt like it took a while here in Florida for people to start taking it seriously. And the narrative that I kept hearing was, if you're high risk, stay home. And that's what I kept hearing. So my husband is high risk. I kind of consider myself high risk because I have a history of asthma problems over the last year plus that have been difficult to get under control. And I also have a history of mini strokes. I've had 5 or 6 if you count the one that was unconfirmed since 2017. I really worry about the blood clots that could come with COVID-19. And so I've been taking this very seriously. And because we consider ourselves high risk, we've really been taking all precautions and staying home and staying away from people and staying isolated. So I kind of really resented people who were out and about doing things irresponsibly and acting like everything was normal while we were home isolated. It also led me back to that feeling of what if I have an emergency? It was a rough time. And this was near the beginning of the pandemic. I think this feeling was probably back in April or May that I really started feeling resentment. And then after this, I really started feeling this kind of confidence in isolation. I don't know if that's the right word for it. It just felt like I was ready for whatever came at me, and it was going to be what it was going to be, and it was okay being at home, and it was okay being isolated, and I was finding other things to do. I attended lots of virtual hangouts with friends and family at this time, and I actually kind of appreciated not going to restaurants and eating all the unhealthy food that would always make my stomach hurt or get me backed up or whatever. It just felt like that was unhealthy anyway, and so I was kind of grateful to be away from that for a while. And so it was really this kind of confidence, a lot of good feels, and a lot of just being okay with whatever came at me. At this time, I even started virtual voice lessons because I was at least I'm doing something and I can have fun, virtually. This is great. I don't know if I would have gotten myself to singing lessons otherwise. That really didn't last very long. This is when I really started to notice ups and downs after this period of time of confidence and everything's good and I can do fun stuff at home. And then it was just kind of up and down roller coaster. I started getting super bored and life started feeling like this 9 Inch Nails song You know, every day is exactly the same. I don't know how many times I've listened to that song during this time. It just felt so relevant to me, the chorus did, about every day just feeling the same and not having any kind of variety in my week. So then I tried to find better things to do. I became really dissatisfied with watching TV every night before bed, and I really was very bored and restless. I think restless would be the right word here. So in these ups and downs, I tried several different things to keep myself occupied and see if I could become interested in these things. First, I got my husband to learn guitar, and then I got a foosball table. And then I started trying to make more food from scratch. So like breads and cashew cream cheese and stuff. It was just like this moment of I'm gonna make my own pasta. Then I bought some of my favorite board games that I hadn't played in a while, which was fun, but it is not as fun with only 2 people sometimes. I think it's more fun with 3 or 4, depending on the game. So that kind of fizzled out. I'm sure it'll rise back up at some point because all of these have been ups and downs. And then I tried to start my own indoor vegetable garden. This was right as fall was finally starting here, so it's definitely not the right time to start an indoor vegetable garden. It actually started first too with a compost bin. So now I have a compost bin with worms that eat food waste and make compost for me right as I go into winter. I used to really like playing music and doing acoustic covers of songs, so I tried that again, but that was super boring by myself. It just felt lonely. It was the loneliness is in your face with that. So I didn't find a lot of joy in that, but I tried. I tried to get back into art. I tried writing some, and really all of these have been very up and down. And there were a lot of moments where I really just could not find anything that was enjoyable to me. Ultimately, the fun in these things kind of disappeared. And this really led to a major down. I probably reached the lowest point in my Corona coaster a couple weeks ago. I just felt super depressed. I was upset with the isolation, with the current state of the pandemic getting worse, how many people have died, the current political situation, the lack of hobbies that were bringing me joy, the lack of differences between days, missing my friends and family, just some really low downs. There were a few days where I just couldn't stop crying. It was so sad and just feeling despair, really. A lot of grief was coming out. There were moments where I realized that I hadn't seen some of my closest friends in about a year, and some of them more than that, because of where they live and where I live and how far we are apart. And then because I have VEDS, that creeping thought came in that I'm sure many of you have experienced, where you're thinking, what if that was the last time that I saw them? What if that trip to Washington I took last year was the last one that I was going to be able to take? This isn't really a thought that I try to focus on often, but I would be lying if I said it never crept in. It definitely comes around, and during the pandemic, it really made that feeling worse. And I actually felt a lot of compassion for people who were diagnosed with a terminal illness at the beginning of this year before the pandemic started, because you think about what if you knew for sure that you only had 6 months to live or something, and the last 6 months of your life were lived during these times when a whole lot of stuff you're not capable of doing everything that you love to do. So I really was just a total mess a couple weeks ago, and I took a few days to really let myself grieve and feel those emotions and acknowledge that they were there and acknowledge that it was okay to feel those things. I really just needed time to let it out. And after I spent a few days letting it out and trying to just feel it, acknowledge it, and move on, I got into a hobby again that I enjoy. And I really just had to pick myself up and say, okay, I know no hobby that I do right now is going to be the same as it was before, but maybe I can do it a different way. So I went about trying to find a hobby again to occupy me and give me kind of a difference in the beginning of the week, the middle of the week, the end of the week, the weekend, nights versus days, because I work from home and sometimes it's very monotonous just going through the whole week working from home and being in your house and always being in your house. And then, it's just a difference of where you are. Are you upstairs or are you downstairs? It's just odd. And I really wanted to find some hobbies. I knew I needed to find some hobbies that would fill in my free time around work that was more than just, watching TV or the same kind of things. I needed something different. I used to play music a lot, but like I said, it got kind of boring playing the same songs that I liked, again on acoustic, or just playing to the room, empty room, new songs that I liked even. It was just very difficult. So it was really uninspiring doing it that way. So I thought about, what if I started playing around more with GarageBand and recording music or composing music or something totally different that I haven't truly felt comfortable with in my life. Just try something new with it around something that I already like. I know I like music. So I started listening to more music again, which I think was really healthy. I think when I traveled a lot before, and even before I worked from home, when I would be, going back and forth from an office every day, I loved listening to music. I would listen to it in my car. I would listen to it at the gym. Everywhere I went, I would listen to music. And that really fell off when I started working from home. And then when the pandemic hit, because I wasn't going anywhere. And I think the car was the primary place that I listened to music, and the gym. So I started listening to music again. I started making a point of it to put it on, and it just kind of lifted my spirits and got me into a better mood. And then I started playing around in GarageBand with making music myself. And that's really the hobby that I'm in right now. I'm sure there's going to be ups and downs with it, but right now it has been a lot of fun just playing around with different sounds and making my own lyrics and just having fun with it. I'm actually getting sucked into something that is fun and enjoyable and has really brought my mood back up. I will say I've also taken a significant step back from social media. So if you've sent me a message on social media, I am very, very sorry that I haven't responded to you. I really noticed it was something I needed to take a step back from for a minute because I was just so down a couple weeks ago, and being on social media didn't help with that. I just needed to be alone, I think, and just be off of my phone and everything. So I don't have social media on my phone. I do check it periodically on my computer, and that is how I'm managing social media right now for my own personal social media. And it really helped a lot. It really did. So here we are. It's near the end of November. We're very close to Thanksgiving, and I do have a lot to be grateful for during this pandemic. Like I said earlier, I'm really appreciative that I've been able to work from home, that I haven't lost my job, that I haven't lost anybody to COVID-19. I haven't gotten it myself. My husband hasn't gotten it. That's been really good. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that it stays that way, that everybody is careful. I hope you're careful. And, we're all in this together, whether you are actually working in a hospital and you are working in more high-risk situations, or you're a first responder, or you're a medical professional, or you are not working and you've lost your job. It all sucks right now. I really think it sucks for everybody. And we all have different experiences, even though we're living through this pandemic together. So I just want to send you all a lot of love, and I hope you have a good holiday doing whatever you are able to do in a safe way. And I'm not going to ramble anymore. I'm just going to wish you guys a happy holiday, and I'll see you soon.